What do you put? Do you just have your bourbon neat?
No, I put ice in it.
See, that's the same as water, but worse.
You can't drink Evan Williams neat.
Howdy, everyone. This is Tuesday, May 9th, 2017, and this is episode 44 of Due for a Win, the Atlantic City and Casino Biz podcast. I'm Kyle Askin, joined as always by Craig Stone. What's going on, Craig?
Happy to be here.
As always?
As always.
Anything good?
Not allergies, which I'm feeling, so if you can hear me sniffling or just sounding generally terrible or voice deteriorating as time goes by, that would be the brilliant pollen of New Jersey.
So I don't have any strange questions to ask you to kick this episode off, but I think once again you've kind of buried the lead a little bit, so I'm going to jump out of order. So you came down and visited this last weekend, and we went to an Oriole game. Me, you, your brother Paul, and our friend Dave. And before that, we went to the Horseshoe Casino in Baltimore. So you had never been. I've been quite a lot of times. So what'd you think of it?
I thought it was pretty nice. I wasn't blown away or anything. I mean, it has sort of that Total Rewards Caesars property feel. I think I said to you or Paul when we were there that if it was in Atlantic City, it would certainly be one of the nicest properties there. But there's something about the vibe of it that feels like it would be out of place there. And my brother made the point that it's not really a resort, right? Like there's no hotel. Mm-hmm. Like there are restaurants, but there aren't that many restaurants. There's sort of a big food court. It's definitely...
And I have to say, you got to see it when all of the restaurants were actually open. Usually the Guy Fieri, if you go like during the week, is the only restaurant open there, and the food court.
Yeah, so there's something about it that sort of feels like it's not necessarily running an errand, but it's a place that you go for the afternoon. You get in, you gamble, you get out. It's not some place that's trying to suck you in and keep you there and stay there for a long time. So I think if you're, like for me, I care more about sort of the ambiance and the experience and all the other things that make casino resorts fun. Mm-hmm. And it has some of that feel, but it's not like I feel like I need to go all the time, or I think if I lived down there, I probably wouldn't really go out of my way to make it there very much.
And I certainly don't. I mean, then again, I think we've talked about in the distant past, I'm not like a huge gambler. Like I don't just go to the casino when I'm bored or something like that. And I've never done it even when I was in Arizona and was, didn't have a 18-month-old. I wouldn't just go to the casino because I had nothing to do. So, I mean, I don't think I'm the kind of person that really would do that anyway, even if I lived in Atlantic City. So it's more of a social thing for me, I think. So, but I agree with you. I mean, I think it is a nice casino, and I do agree. I'd never really thought about it until you just mentioned it, but I do think it would be a bit out of place in Atlantic City, though, as you said, I think that with the exception of Borg and Revel, it probably would be the nicest casino there.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice. Like it's certainly designed nicely. I like the way the casino floor is laid out fine. I do have to just pause for a second here to call you out a little bit, because I think we have some friends who have gone to Vegas with you who would laugh at you saying that it's a social thing to go to the casino.
Well, it's a social thing to go to Vegas or Atlantic City. Okay, once I'm there, I will admit I may or may not actually hang out with people, but...
I just had to throw that in there. Because for those that don't know, I don't know if we've talked about it, but we will certainly go to Vegas with a group, and
by that you mean we have in the past, but we'll never again.
Yes, yeah, definitely never happening again. And Kyle will disappear for hours and hours on end at the Pai Gow table at Harrah's Las Vegas. While
we're playing some sort of terrible mixed game at the TI.
Yeah.
Not TI. IP.
Yeah, the non-existent IP, the no longer
Yes, it does not exist anymore.
IP. And so we'll go do other things like eat dinner and wander the strip, but you will be perfectly happy sitting at the table at Harrah's for hours on end, which I don't think most of our friends do, which is fine. It's just
right. Well, part of that too is that I'm not really into, like, you guys really like going out and having nice dinners or going out and doing the Win $50 breakfast buffet for 2.5 hours, and nothing sounds worse in the world than that to me. So
I will say that I think there was a time where I thought that was really cool, and now just like the idea of spending a ton of money on a buffet that like is totally
a breakfast buffet.
Yeah, and someplace that's basically like I'm going to feel obligated to eat a ton because I would never spend that much on breakfast otherwise, right? And probably not even on lunch and rarely on dinner. The buffet thing just doesn't really do it for me unless I've got, 2 for 1 or comps or whatever.
Right.
So it's pretty rare I go to the buffet. But back to Horseshoe, because that's what we were actually talking about, not talking about Vegas, which we'll never go to again. Yeah, I mean, I thought the gambling, I'll say I feel like I left thinking the gambling was okay because I won. But the first thing I sat down at was 7-5 jacks or better, which is terrible.
It's terrible, but standard, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, like, I would never sit at a 7-5 table in Atlantic City. So I think that's sort
right,
of...
Right, okay, fair enough.
And then we ended up playing $25 craps because that's what we could get on. There were $15 craps tables, but we couldn't get on that table. There's one $15 craps table we couldn't get on that table. And then the other tables for 25. I ended up teaming up with Dave. We only bought in for $200, and the first guy who shot just started making points immediately, so we were never in any danger. I actually initially planned to do what they talked about on the last episode of You Can Bet on That, which is just place the 6 and 8 for $30 each and see how that goes rather than doing pass line and backing it up. But I figured, let's try the pass line once and see how it goes. And he immediately, I think he rolled an 11 to start and then immediately rolled an 8, made the 8. I think so in a span of 3 rolls, we were already up a decent amount. And then at that point, it's like, okay, well, we might as well just keep doing the pass line and with a little bit of odds. I was doing like 2 times odds on 6 and 8. I think when he set a point that was a 10 twice, and I did 30 both times on that. But the guy rolled pretty well. I think he made 4 points. And at that point, we needed to get going to the game, or we thought we did. The game was actually rain delayed, which we realized after we left the hot craps table. But we were going to leave right after him, and then we said, let's get one more roll in. So me and my brother passed to you.
Because who immediately crapped out.
So yeah, and you immediately... So I haven't made a point. I haven't made more than 1 point in a roll in like a year. So I was just like, I'm not going to crush this table after this dude just had a good roll. My brother
was the man who was willing to step up
and destroy the table.
Yes.
My brother very sneakily put his money on the don't, which I don't think you would realize until you rolled the point.
I did.
Until your come out roll. So my brother made money even on your roll. But I mean, we all left up from that table. I think we all left up from the casino, right?
I think so. I was probably pretty close to even, but I certainly wasn't down, or if I was, it was a very small amount.
Yeah, so we left the craps table, and then Dave, I think, realized that the game was going to be delayed. The tarp was still on the field, so we cashed out. It was taking a while. Dave had some free play chips, so you ran over to the giant slot machine.
The biggest slot machine in history. And
there's definitely a bigger slot machine than that. Well, maybe not. I was going to say there's a bigger one at Golden Nugget, but I think it's as tall but not as wide.
It was pretty big, Craig.
It was a big slot machine. So how did that go for you?
Pretty well. So I just put $50 in it. It was the max bet was $15 a spin. So I'm like, I'll give it 3 spins, knowing that I would put another 10 in it if I lost all 3 and give it a 4th spin. But I won a bunch of money on the 2nd spin, and then I immediately cashed out for $170. So, so I was definitely up between that and craps.
Yeah, I mean, so positive EV, I think, advantage play to go to the biggest slot machine in the world. Is that?
Yeah, as far as we can tell. I mean, I've done 2 spins on it. It was not positive EV after the first spin, but after the second one, it certainly was. So you might need a little bit of perseverance, but
Yeah, I mean, you didn't just stop after the first spin, so I don't think we can say it's small sample size. You did your research and made sure you hit the button a second time. So
I did.
I think we can seriously recommend that machine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the general is that the bigger and more like whatever obviously placed the machine is, probably the worse it is. But not in this case, clearly.
Yeah, no, it's my research does not back that up. So.
Yeah. Will you ever play the giant slot machine again?
I doubt it. I'm a winner on it. There's no reason to change that.
I think that's probably smart. Anything else on the horseshoe? Oh, so blackjack. It was a Friday night. It was Saturday evening. Derby night. So it was crowded. I was almost called it the Royal Derby. That is something else. That is a game.
The Kentucky Derby.
At the Wild Wild West. Yeah, it's the Kentucky Derby. So insane long line at the race book. Pretty good crowd throughout the place, but there was $10 blackjack. Is that right?
Yep.
Packed. And then a decent amount of 15, I think, and 25. We played $25 tiles, which is that's normal for AC, so that was cool.
Yep.
The Asian room is very cool, I'll say. Very
nice.
Nicely decorated. I think we talked about how Asian rooms tend to be some of the nicest places in casinos and a lot of times have the best service. So it's cool to see that. But yeah, I had a good time. I mean, we were only there for right around 2 hours, but it was fun.
Yeah, no, it was a good time. I mean, I always enjoy it when I go to Horseshoe with people. So it's a perfectly nice little casino. I certainly am more comfortable in it than I am in the MGM. So I'd recommend if you're in the area, Horseshoe or Maryland Live over MGM. But that's just me.
I certainly liked it better than Maryland Live for the little time I spent in Maryland Live. I just thought Maryland Live was too... It's just one big floor, right? So it's this giant sort of mess. And I find it a little overwhelming. Whereas I think Horseshoe feels a little more manageable because it's split up over 2 floors, which I kind of like for some reason. But I don't know. I'm coming down in June and taking the train straight to Baltimore. I wouldn't be too surprised if we end up back at the Horseshoe, but it's totally a convenience thing for me, which I guess is what locals casinos are.
Right.
So should we move on to Atlantic City talk?
Yeah. Should we go through the news first or do kind of our big news? What do you think, Craig? Should we make the people wait?
Let's jump into our big news. Why not?
Yeah, I think we need to kind of put it towards the beginning. So Craig and I have been talking, and listener Ed, who everyone should know, is it Scan? What are the numbers after his
720? I think.
Yeah, Scan 720 on Twitter. Suggest throughout June 11th as a possible meetup date, which is a Sunday afternoon on the deck at Golden Nugget, which I have never been to. I don't think you have either, right?
No, I've never been. I've been to Golden Nugget. I've never been to any of their outdoor spaces.
Right. So he suggested it. He said it was a good time. So me and Craig checked with our wives and confirmed that we were both able to make the trip to Atlantic City that day. So we are going to the Golden Nugget and want to meet up with people on the deck sometime Sunday afternoon, June 11th. I'm not sure exactly what time that's going to be because me and Craig have been talking. There's some things we may want to do kind of before that, but sometime kind of mid-afternoon, I'd guess. We'll try to do that. And we'll definitely announce kind of more details on our Twitter or Facebook and in the next episode we have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to get into town probably until 12:30 or 1, so certainly later than that.
It's going to be like that for me, or even a little later, probably.
Yeah, and I think you and I also want to check out the AC Fan Expo to see what's going on there.
Before it closes on Sunday.
I mean, I don't think we'll probably spend too much time there, but just to get over and walk through and see what it looks like and see how it's going there. It's still going to be very, very early in their run, so I don't expect it to be fully realized and fleshed out with a lot of vendors and everything.
Well, and I don't know if you've ever really seen like big expos. I think you haven't. But like Sunday afternoon, they're like even the biggest ones are kind of dying off then. Vendors have packed up and left. It's like Sunday tickets are always the tickets that are like readily available for people to get if they want them.
Yeah, I think that's pretty standard. But
yeah. I'm not expecting much, and I'll take that into account when I walk through it. But I would like to see it, and we're going to be in town, and we get in on that Sunday, so it's the only time we're going to be able to see it. So
yeah. So what about where we're staying? Do you have any thoughts? Are you attempting? Haven't even started.
I haven't even started. I mean, I have plenty of options. I have comps right now at Trop and resorts. I can probably, if I wait, get a CET property. So I'm not really concerned about it.
Yeah, I expect if I wait, I'll end up with CET property. So I think I mentioned last episode that I've lost even my Sunday through Thursday comps at resorts, which is disappointing. Although my booklet says no Sunday through Thursday comps in May, but when I go online, it actually says that I do have Sunday through Thursday offers. It's a separate offer code. So I'm hoping maybe that'll come through for June. Mm-hmm. I certainly wouldn't mind staying at resorts again, especially if I can do the Rendezvous Tower.
Right.
But no, my rate's not right now otherwise not particularly good in the 89 to 129 range, which isn't great for a Sunday. Showboat is $74.25 that night, for what it's worth. But I can't see myself actually staying at Showboat, especially on a Sunday night after the Fan Expo is all wrapped up.
We both know that we're going to get free rooms at CET if we wait. So
I don't know that I will.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm optimistic.
That's true. But yeah, you probably will. And worst comes to worst, I don't care. We can stay in the same room maybe. As long as you're not have some horrible intestinal illness again.
Yeah, it would certainly be preferable for this trip to not have that happening. Yeah, it's funny because we historically have always just stayed in the same room. But, I mean, it is kind of nice to have your own room. One thing
it's definitely nice.
And the weird thing about that I had never really thought about, because it's like 2 beds, whatever, I don't care. All I need is my own bed, and it's free. You split the resort fee or whatever. When you get up in the morning, you don't have to wait for somebody else to shower or whatever for you to shower, which is nice. I don't know that our wake-up schedules sync up that much, though, that it's really a problem.
No, I think I tend to wake up before most people in our group.
Certainly before me.
Right.
I can sleep in. Although I tend to have a little trouble sleeping in when I'm traveling. Add that to my many travel issues. But I don't mind laying in bed for a little bit. So look out for more details about where we're staying, where we'll be.
Yeah.
What about length of stay? Should we mention that?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to stay from June 11th to June 13th. So if anyone can't make it on the Sunday, but they're in town on Monday or even kind of Tuesday morning, I guess I'll probably leave right around lunchtime because I need to pick up my child from daycare and cannot be late. So I'll be on the safe-ish side, but I'll probably end up leaving around 11 on Tuesday. But if anyone's in town Monday and wants to hang out, I will be around.
So I am getting there right around the same time as you on Sunday, probably leaving the same time that you're going to leave on Tuesday, but I will leave on Monday. So I have a similar thing. I'm going to come back and pick up my daughter from daycare. So I'll probably leave around 1:30. I think there's a bus because I am taking the bus.
Sweet.
So I'll end up with right around 24 hours actually in Atlantic City, but that should give me enough time to get a pretty full Sunday and then, morning and lunch on Monday. So
are you thinking you definitely want to stay on the boardwalk?
No, not necessarily. I mean, if I can get...
because Kara's, for me, it's usually the cheapest Caesars property. I mean, I think it is generally the cheapest Caesars property. So, we can walk there from Golden Nugget. So
it's been the most expensive for me lately.
Oh, really?
Probably because I've gambled way more at Caesars and Bally's. So I'm getting much better rates. Caesars for me has actually been the cheapest lately, which is really strange. But I do most of my play at Caesars.
Many times Caesars is also the cheapest for me. But again, I think I also gamble way more at Caesars than the other ones. But Harrah's is usually pretty inexpensive or free as well. Yeah.
So, one thing that I've kicked around is that if I don't get better rates, and if I, for some reason, am just totally refusing to stay with you, it feels like it doesn't really make a lot of sense to spend $89 plus resort fees to stay at Caesars when I can spend $119 plus resort fees to stay at Borgata, right? So
I agree.
Especially
since resort fees are like $15 cheaper at Borgata.
Right. So that difference is only really like 10 or $15. But I don't think that is going to be a decision I'm actually going to have to make.
All right.
So we'll see. And I know.
Cool.
Well, and the other thing I'm going to keep an eye on is My Vegas to see if there's any sort of super discounted rooms. Right now, it's only $89 Sunday through Thursday, which isn't anything to write home about. So.
Yep. So anyway, we would definitely love to see you on Sunday, June 11th, on the deck at Golden Nugget. And like Craig said, we'll keep you up to date as our plans solidify.
Yeah, and most of the sort of planning of that will probably happen in the Facebook group, just talking in the Facebook group. So that's where Ed's initial post is. Some people have said that they're planning to go. A couple people are going and staying at Borgata. So if you're interested in being there for the sort of planning stages of it, not that there's really that much to plan out, but if you're sort of interested in seeing who's going, talking about where you want to stay and all that kind of stuff, check out the Facebook group and talk about it there.
Yeah, and if you come, maybe I'll buy you a beer.
Maybe.
Try to get all of our listeners a beer. But you have to listen. I'll quiz you, and if you don't know, you don't get anything.
The Due for a Win quiz. You better be listening.
Yep. All right, so let's get to the actual Atlantic City news.
Sure.
So we talked about the Atlantic City Fan Expo and how we're both going to try to swing by, hopefully on Sunday before we go to the meetup, just to see what's going on, because for all we know, it might be the last time we go there this summer. Hopefully not, but maybe. And they have announced their first 2 weekends. So their first weekend is Memorial Day weekend, and it's just their fan preview weekend. Sounds like nothing's really set in stone, as Sean, that was his name, right?
Yes.
So Sean said while we were interviewing him, that's going to be kind of like their beta testing weekend. It's going to be free for anyone who buys a ticket to a future weekend. So that is Memorial Day weekend. And then the next weekend after that, June 2nd through 4th, is board game weekend. But they haven't really posted any ticket prices or guest list or anything like that yet. So do you have any comments about that, Craig?
No, I mean, it's interesting to see some info go up. These are obviously kind of very general weekends. It's not like he mentioned Pokemon weekend, which is much more specific, right? Like you're going to get the cast of Pokemon together. So I think this probably makes sense, especially if it's not going to be chock full of vendors and fully, decorated with everything open in time for these first couple weekends. So I think that probably does make some sense. Expect certainly panels and stuff to get listed for board game weekend, but probably the future weekends will be a little bigger than these two.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, so they did hint on Twitter today that they have a lot of announcements to come. They said something like we've been, lying in wait, like a dragon lying in wait and ready to start breathing fire or something like that. So hopefully lots of news to come. So check out their Twitter. It's at ACF Expo, I think. And it's acfxpo.com is their website. So check that out.
Cool. So we talked a little bit last episode, I believe, about the Bungalow Beer Garden, which is something I think we were both kind of tentatively excited about, but there wasn't a whole lot of information. You, thanks to your deep investigative journalism, were able to confirm that they are related or have the same parent company as the people who run Bungalow Restaurant, Lounge, and Beach Bar. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Sure. So
your brilliant investigative skill of asking on Twitter.
Yeah, I'll let you inside the journalistic process here, and tell you how we found this out. Besides just the fact that Route 40 also posted an article mentioning it today, but when we heard about this, I think it was a Press of Atlantic City article. Just very, very brief mentioning that this was proposed. Like we said, it was very, very early in the planning stages. And when I saw the name Bungalow Beer Garden, my initial thought was, Bungalow Restaurant and Lounge and Bungalow Beach Bar are two other things that are owned by the same people on the boardwalk, and on the beach. But it didn't mention if they were related. So I tweeted at them before the last episode saying, hey, here's this Press of Atlantic City article. Any relation to these guys? So I tweeted at the existing whatever, Bungalow Beach AC. And they responded a day later, just yes, that's it. Three letters, yes. And I was like, okay. I sent them a little thumbs up emoji because I was like, I feel like to give them some acknowledgement. But
what more needed to be said?
Yeah, I guess, if you're just going for assignment completed, check. I'd like a little like, hey, yeah, we're doing this. Stroke my ego a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what I want.
You're too needy, Craig.
Clearly. So, yeah, I mean, really, that was all they needed to say. But I would have expected them to be like, yeah, it's going to be awesome, or we have big plans, or whatever. But no, none of that. Just like binary. One. Check. So it is related. Today, actually, Route 40, which is rt40.com, posted an article by Eleanor Comley saying that the CRDA planning officer has recommended it for board approval. The CRDA's next meeting is May 16th. I'm not entirely clear on whether or not this will actually be on the agenda, but it seems like it is being recommended to go forward. And then once that's done, they're still going to need all these things like permission to use space on the boardwalk, obviously liquor licenses, other sort of health inspections, all that, or licensing and all that kind of stuff. So, but at the very least, it is moving forward, still very, very much in the preliminary stages, but it seems like, this is a company with some existing stuff in Atlantic City, clearly knows how to get through the process of opening something on the boardwalk and on the beach. So I'm pretty optimistic about this one.
Yeah. I think we said last time it seems pretty cool. And I mean, it's hard to imagine a reason that like any sort of planning board would say no to this, right? It's like an empty space right now. So
yeah, it's an empty, it's a parking lot. It's a parking lot that's in use. I mean, that was all I was going to say. It's right next to Tropicana.
There's been plenty of mind-boggling decisions made by planning boards in the past, so I certainly wouldn't count your chickens quite yet, but it seems like the kind of thing that no one would have issues with. And hopefully they allow drinking on the boardwalk sometime this summer, but who knows?
Yeah, I'd love to be able to buy a beer at the Bungalow Beer Garden, which won't be open this summer.
Walk up to Caesars.
Yeah, and, sit for a bit, walk up to Caesars holding my beer like an adult, walking on the boardwalk and go into Caesars and play some slots or whatever. So we'll see where this goes. I think it seems pretty solid.
Yeah, cool. So you want to talk about the beach concert, Craig? Because I don't have anything to say.
I don't have much to say other than that it's so I was sort of hinting that the last announcement, which was the Pink concert on July 12th, might not necessarily be the first one. But then as I read more about it, I realized that was just me talking with not enough information. It definitely seems like that is the first one. Like other people have reported that it's the first one. So they have announced a second one. Live Nation announced that country singer Brantley Gilbert will be performing on Thursday, July 13th, which is one day after Pink is performing. I guess that makes it easy to just leave the stage set up. So probably makes some sense in that. And, there's probably not a lot of overlap in the fan base, so you don't have to worry about people getting burnt out on like, oh, I wanted to see both these people, so which one do I pick?
You don't think? I bet there's plenty of people who like both of them.
I don't know enough about Brantley Gilbert to know
I've
what
never
the
heard of.
is.
I don't even know if it's a him or a her, but I've never heard of them.
I know it's a him because there was a picture in the Press of Atlantic City article by Rebecca King that mentioned this.
It shows you my feelings on country music. So.
Yeah,
but I'll say the same thing I always say, that I have driven through South Jersey. It seems like an area that would be very keen on country music, so I'm sure it'll do well.
Yeah, and for me, like I don't really care about country music. I don't find it offensive, like not offensive, but I don't dislike it strongly. Like some people like, oh, I'll listen to anything but country. I don't feel that way. And it is very fun music to listen to live. Like if you're at a bar and there's like a country cover band, that's always a good time. Nashville is great for that. Obviously this is a totally different thing than that. So this guy sings Bottoms Up and The Weeknd, two songs I've never heard of. And tickets go on sale at 10 a.m. on Friday, May 10th, which is not a Friday. So I'm gonna have to check the date on that because that was what was listed.
Tomorrow.
That is tomorrow.
And Wednesday.
And that is a Wednesday. So let's see if we have a better date than that.
So while you look for that, I can kind of pick up for you.
May 12th, by the way.
Okay, Friday, May 12th. There you go. So you don't have to panic once you hear this. Probably tomorrow, Wednesday, May 10th. You haven't missed anything. Anyway, it's a bit weird to me that this is back-to-back. I mean, like you said, it's probably certainly cheaper for them, but I know you said you thought there wouldn't be much overlap, but I kind of think there possibly could be, and I think there could be some burnout. So, I don't know. I mean, then again, it's not... I don't know. I'm not really sure that it's a great idea to have, like, 2 of their 3 big concerts back-to-back.
I mean, I think they're not capped at 3. Hopefully this is not me again talking totally misinformed. I know that their plan calls for 3 concerts, but I think if I remember right, last summer they actually planned for more concerts beyond what they were initially expected. They ended up canceling 1 or 2. But
they also planned for a New Year's Eve concert.
How'd that go? Point. Yeah, you can't rely on plans or even what's in the contract.
Can't rely on anything in Atlantic City, Greg.
So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of an interesting point, because I had looked at this very optimistically, like, oh, they're cramming the schedule. But it could be like they're knocking it out, and they're going to get out of here.
Yeah, not only that, though, it's like, even if you're right, and even if there is no overlap of people who want to listen to Pink versus Brantley Gilbert, like, you're not getting the full economic benefits of this by having them back to back, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Because you'd want people to come in and listen to Pink and spend a weekend in Atlantic City, and then you'd want people to come in and listen to Brantley Gilbert and spend a weekend, or what in this case, I guess, a couple weekdays in both of these cases in Atlantic City, and you're not, they're going to be colliding with each other.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and that's something that I hadn't really thought about. I mean, it's as far as what the CRDA wanted in funding these things, this is probably not giving them the full benefit.
Well, I'm sure they wrote the contract in some way where it did not outlaw this, so it's a nice cost savings measure for, is it Live Nation that runs this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think it's optimal, but live and learn. Hopefully they write the contract better next time.
Yeah, so they are expecting a 3rd concert announcement sometime after Memorial Day. I don't know if there will be anything beyond that, but hopefully more.
Yep. All right, you want to talk about some resort fees?
Everybody's favorite topic, the resort fees.
Yeah. So,
do we want to just jump right into the numbers that
go for it,
or have lots of numbers after the decimal point, because that's the way taxes work. Mm-hmm. So in 2017, New Jersey actually decreased their sales tax to 6.875%, so this has been in effect for a few months, but the hotel tax is still 7%. So the total tax is now 13.875% on your room instead of 14%. So if all this time you had been looking at a room rate and multiplying by 1.14, now you need to multiply by 1.13875. So that actually has sort of a ripple effect in the resort fees, in that they've all been kind of tweaked to just stay the same, even though the tax has gone down. So they're basically collecting more, right, for the resort fee. They're getting a few extra cents on their resort fee because they're paying less in taxes on it. So Caesars had previously adjusted to this to $23.68, and it worked out to $32, which I didn't think really made sense at the time, but whatever, that was what showed up on the bill. Now I went online today to check, and it went to $23.71, so they raised the resort fee by 3 cents. Mm-hmm. Which should round out to $32. Like, that should work out perfectly. $28.71 plus the 13.875% tax should be $28.71. Or no, $7. And then $5 for the occupancy fee to get to $32. When you actually go to book, it tells you $32.28. So I have no idea where that 28 cents is coming from. I'm assuming there's something wrong in their little booking thing.
And,
I don't know if it will ever get fixed.
As you may know, and if you don't, I think Craig and I are two of the all-time experts on the ins and outs of everything with the Total Rewards website. So, and I don't think this is shocking to either of us that something seems horribly wrong on it.
Yeah, and it really confused me as I was looking at it, because I was like, I just don't understand how you come up with this number. Because a lot of the other, I think every other property now includes the tax in their resort fee. So when they tell you the resort fee, they just say like $1,708 or whatever, which we'll get to for resorts. But so I was confused, and then I sort of like separated it all out and realized like, oh, this should work out to $32, but it doesn't. So I don't know what the deal is. And the other thing is I'll say is I wouldn't be surprised if you actually go and pay and your bill is $32. It's just that what it shows you online is $32.28. So if anybody's going and staying at a Caesars property in the next couple of weeks, let us know if they take your 28 cents, because that's important. That 28 cents is yours, not theirs. Probably not a big thing to get outraged about. I just thought it was strange.
Right. So I think the biggest news, though, is about Tropicana's resort fees, right?
Well, resorts actually did a significant raise.
Yeah, resorts. Sorry, that's what I meant to say, but keep going.
Yeah, we do have Trop news. We'll get to that. Resorts increased their resort fee from $13.67, I think, to $17.08, and so this is actually their second increase of the year. It was just over $10 before, so now it's $17.08, which includes the tax. And with the $5 occupancy and tourism fee, it's $22.08. So Chauncey B3WOV on Twitter pointed this out to us. I feel like we mention him every
Everyone's
episode.
Favorite Twitter avatar or profile picture or whatever you want to call it, the Gijun Teen Pair.
Yes. Is it Gijun Teen Pair or is it just Gijun?
No, it's Gijun Teen.
That's good stuff.
It's good.
So... yeah, thanks to him for pointing that out. I feel like we've mentioned him every episode recently for pointing stuff out to us, but a little disappointing to see resorts now having relatively high resort fees compared to other casinos. So we've updated the list so you can see the comparison, but I mean, what do you think?
So, I mean, what I said on Twitter in response is that it's just it's a bit strange. It's making it harder to recommend them as a great place for low rollers to go. And if you listen to the podcast, you know that Craig and I are both kind of big fans of resorts, but their resort fee is the highest in Atlantic City other than the CET properties right now. It's higher than Borgata, and it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. And not only that, but no one in Atlantic City has raised their resort fees this year except for resorts, who's done it twice.
Yeah, Borgata raised theirs late in 2016, I think from 15 to 20. And so that, MGM coming in, obviously that was probably going to go up, but...
Right, and but no one would complain about the Borgatas being 20, because when you compare it to, like the other properties in Atlantic City, like it looks quite reasonable. I mean, I would complain about it being 20 because I think it should be 0, but whatever. I mean, that's a different conversation to have. But, you know, the fact that resorts is the second most expensive property, well, I guess the fourth most expensive property because of, you know, CET having 3 casinos, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, for me, they should be $15 or, you know, maybe even $10 to undercut the other places. But I don't know. I mean, I don't have access to the same spreadsheets they have. I don't have access to the things they're looking at. I mean, maybe, you know, people really are super, like resort fees are a super inelastic multiplier, I guess, or it's like an inelastic good because people don't really take them into account at all when they're booking anything. So maybe it doesn't matter, but I don't know. For me, I think that it's weird that they're so high compared to the other players in the market.
Yeah, I mean, I think, unfortunately, people are not looking at a chart like this that lists all the resort fees against each other, so people just go by whatever the room rate is. They assume the resort fees are generally similar. And you know, they're only, they're $17 apart from the cheapest, which are Golden Nugget, and Tropicana at $15 to Bally's, Caesars, and Harrah's, which are $32. But again, like you said, Borgata at $20 in the middle of the pack seems totally reasonable. But for some reason, Resorts at $22.08. I mean, for some reason being, it's not as full a resort as Borgata is. It seems excessive, and really they should be the cheapest, probably, resort fee. So, yeah, I don't love it. It's probably not enough to deter me from going, and that's the rub, right? Like, it's not enough to deter people from going, so they're going to keep raising it until they hit that point, or until it gets legislated out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what is that point? I mean, you know that for me, I know that we differ. Like, the CET resort fees are at the point now where I'm not really comfortable paying them. And it's something we talked a lot about before our last trip. And I know you're not there yet, but what is kind of the point where you get uncomfortable?
I mean, 32 I find very frustrating. Over 30 I find very annoying. But it still ends up being usually the cheapest for me because it's a lot of times my only comp option. But when I had the option of a Caesars comp with the $32 fee or the Resorts comp when it was $16, I definitely took Resorts over that. And really, I mean, if I have any other comp, I would probably prefer it to Total Rewards solely because of the fee, even though I like Caesars better than, I'd rather stay at Caesars than Resorts. I'd certainly rather stay at Caesars than Tropicana. I would probably, if given the same rate, like 0, I would probably prefer either of those other two properties just because of the resort fee, just as a vote with my wallet sort of thing. But it's pretty rare that I have that option where they're all the same price. We'll see if that happens on a Sunday night, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's great. I think that it hurts Resorts standing as kind of the like low rollers local casino, which is I think what they're kind of trying to go for with them, and then Golden Nugget are the two in my mind that have that status. So I don't know. For me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But anyway, the other piece of news is I think in a bit of super investigative journalism that you kind of broke, or maybe you're the only one who's ever talked about it at all.
Maybe I'm the only one who cares.
Like a year ago, when you were writing up the list of fees and stuff, you discovered that on all the third-party sites, Tropicana had an extra fee above and beyond the resort fees that they were charging if you booked on like an Expedia or Kayak or whatever, right?
Yeah, and it was a good amount. It was over $20, I think, per night, per room. And so in checking all the resort fees to update this list, I looked and I said, let me just check this to make sure I'm not telling people the wrong thing. And Hotels.com and Expedia no longer have any sort of extra fee. It's exactly the same if you book on their site or if you book on either of those third-party sites. I'm assuming all the other third-party sites like Orbitz and what else, Priceline and all that stuff is the same. One thing I did notice is that the rooms tended to be actually a little cheaper. The display rate tended to be a little cheaper on Tropicana, and that was even without me being signed in to my account. So definitely check to book through Trop Direct, which is interesting. I mean, it's I guess kind of a different way of going about the same thing, because the rates back when I first did this list, whatever it was a year ago or a little more, would be exactly the same. The display rates would always be exactly the same. It's just that there was this weird fee that I couldn't make any sense of, where if you booked through Hotels.com or any of those sites, it would be significantly more expensive than if you booked through Tropicana.net. Now it seems like the display rate's cheaper on Tropicana.net, but all the resort fees and everything make perfect sense, and there's no extra double secret hidden fee or anything like that. So happy about that, because I don't like it when there's a totally obscure fee, especially the way it was packaged. It just said taxes and fees with a big number. And so it didn't break it down at all. You couldn't click to expand it. And I found that really crappy. Like, I just think it's a really shitty way of doing business. So I'm glad that they got rid of that.
So that's good. And you went in and updated our link on our website. I know it's one of the more popular posts we've made of all the resort fees in Atlantic City, and we'll link to that in the show notes. So I think the last piece of news that we have is about the Hard Rock. It came out today in some, I think it was like an SEC filing, right? Or something like that. What exactly Hard Rock paid for the Taj Mahal. And it was $50 million, which I guess is perhaps a bit less than what people had thought, given what the Taj had been valued at. But do you want to talk a bit more about that and what it means?
Yeah, so it was an SEC filing, linked to an article by Nicholas Huba from the Press of Atlantic City that talks about it. It's certainly less than expected, like you mentioned. Icahn valued the property at $86 million in his reports in 2016. So it leaves presumably about $325 million for renovations, because they talked about $375 million purchase and renovation budget. I don't know that the purchase price really means a whole lot right now in the scheme of Atlantic City, because I don't think it's really all that relevant to the other properties that are on the market. I guess my question is if it's relevant to Revel, if Glenn Straub ever decided to sell Revel with the attached power plant. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? If this is actually decreases the value because it's sold for lower?
Bad omen.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, they're such different properties, right? I mean, Revel, I think, should be... I mean, there's like serious architectural issues with Revel, but it's not the kind of thing that I think someone's going to fix necessarily. But, you know,
design issues, not like structural issues.
Right, design issues like the hotel elevator not going to the casino, or like the ridiculous escalator you have to take to the casino. But like that's not something that's easily fixed. But like Revel should be basically turnkey, right? And Hard Rock is like very, very, very much not that at all. So I don't think it's exactly an apples to apples comparison. I don't think this is like a really bad omen for Glenn Straub. I think that I and most other people that I hear from, or honestly, I think all other people I hear from are quite bullish on everything that's happening in Atlantic City. So I'm not worried about it.
No, me neither. I actually think, if anything, Straub could spin the combined cost plus renovation budget as being more than what he paid for, almost 4 times what he paid for Revel and the power company. So I think that that's relevant because Taj needs a ton of work. Revel does not need a ton of work, like you said. So I think that's definitely part of it. I think another thing worth mentioning is that the chairman of Hard Rock said that you should not expect any sort of Taj Mahal, anything, at least on the interior of the building. Like, they're going to get rid of all of that stuff. So that'll be interesting to see how they totally change the property. I mean, I think it makes sense. And they had hinted that they were going to totally redo the casino floor, but it seems like they're very serious about you not feeling like you're in the old Trump Taj Mahal when you're inside. Mm. And that was actually Wayne Perry, I think, in our Facebook group posted that, mentioning that comment. So if you're interested in those kinds of insights, definitely join our Facebook group. He's the Associated Press writer for Atlantic City, so I'm assuming he'll write up something outlining that kind of stuff also. But just interesting to hear, and obviously it'll be interesting to see what they do with the renovations going forward.
Yep.
Anything else on Hard Rock, Taj? Obviously, we'll have to see what their resort fee is when they open.
So I think one more piece of news. Did we talk about this? I don't remember talking about it, but we may have. That one of the things that came out recently is that the property tax actually went down for the first time in 10 years, I believe, in Atlantic City recently.
No, we did not talk about it.
So I don't know if that's just kind of something for people to think about. I think we've talked about on the show, perhaps, but definitely in the Facebook group about how ridiculous the property taxes are in Atlantic City, and the fact that they actually went down this year should be a pretty good sign for people who are maybe potentially interested in investing there or whatever, but not necessarily in casinos because they don't pay property tax anymore, but in other stuff, it's still quite expensive, at least to my Maryland eyes. but I understand that New Jersey in general is very, very expensive in terms of property tax. So I thought it was an interesting thing that happened semi-recently that it's good to note. I mean, it didn't go down very much. It went down like 5%, and they're still ridiculously high. But the fact that it actually went down for once is a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking to do some sort of development, rentals or whatever, and you're going to have to pay those property taxes, you're definitely balking at that. I mean, it's cutting into your profit directly, right? So anything that cuts the property taxes is going to spur investment, I would think, and spur development. I mean, the taxes are absurdly high. I mean, we looked a little bit today on what Redfin, and just to see what some taxes
I was looking
were
on Redfin, and I was looking on the Atlantic County property tax website, looking up some places, and it's ridiculous. And there were properties that I found that had higher property tax payments each month than principal and interest payments for, a normal 30-year, 20% down loan, which is, I mean, that's crazy that you're paying more for taxes than you are for your mortgage. It's insanity, especially for someone like me who comes from Maryland, which no one will say Maryland is a low tax state, but compared to New Jersey, it is.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to mention is that it's hard to sort of compare property taxes between states and municipalities because, without getting too deep into it, yeah, the property tax is a percentage, but it all comes down to the assessment. And the real problem with Atlantic City, it seems like, based on comments that I see on Press of Atlantic City articles and other public forums where Atlantic City residents post, is that it's very, very hard to get reassessed, right? And obviously casinos, like we talk a lot about Borgata getting reassessed and all that stuff. Obviously casinos have deep pockets. They can hire lawyers. They can force reassessments. They can challenge them in court.
Like all of the Carl Icahn casinos right now.
Right. But if you're just a resident...
2014, 2015, and 2016.
Yes, which is a problem, obviously.
Yeah, the Plaza, the Trop, and the Taj Mahal, because he owned it then.
Yeah, but if you don't own those properties, if you own a small house or whatever and you need your property reassessed because it was assessed in, 2007 at the height of the market, it's very difficult for you to do that because they have no incentive, right? Like the state, I mean, the city has no incentive to come reassess your property and lower your taxes. So that's how you end up with, that combination of a really high assessment, the property values coming down a lot in that time, and then the percentage ends up being something crazy, like, 5% of your actual home value you have to pay every year, which is just insane. So that is a huge deterrent, and anything they can do to get that down is good. But lowering the percentage is probably not going to do as much as actually going through and reassessing a bunch of those properties, which they just have no reason to do, except, wanting to help the people who live there.
That's not what local government's in the business of.
No.
All right. I think that's about it for this episode, right? Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that's it. Very
cool.
News heavy.
Yeah. Well, not that news heavy, but somewhat news heavy. I mean, a lot of it was Horseshoe and Meetup.
No, that's true. Well, we'll come back with more fun stuff next week, I think.
Yeah, hopefully next week we should have a guest on, but we'll see. Cross our fingers. I think it's probably going to happen. So anyway, if you want to talk to us or any other listeners of the podcast, please join our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/do-for-a-win. You can find our content, including the resort fee list, at doforawin.com. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and TuneIn Radio. And I think this is something that we have not mentioned for the first 43 episodes of this, but I will mention now. We'll break the streak on episode 44. If you do enjoy the podcast, we'd love for you to rate us on iTunes because, as Mark and Dr. Mike say, it really helps when we get good ratings on iTunes. You can reach out to us on Twitter at DoForAWin, where I have been doing a surprising amount of tweeting, I think, somewhat recently.
Yeah, you're on fire.
And you can send questions to us at doforwin@gmail.com. Are you actually still checking that account, Craig?
Yeah, of course. Not a lot of emails coming in. Yeah. I have it up all day, every day in a window, in a tab in my browser.
Cool.
Sometimes I get an email and I can't get to it for a long time. So if I don't email in a couple days, it's not that I'm ignoring you. It's just that I want to write an actual reasoned response and not just shoot you a one-line email in response.
Yeah, I will confirm that Craig forwards many of them to me for my thoughts while he's crafting his response. So
if it takes a couple days, like that's
it's
probably
because
why.
Craig is meticulously crafting a response. But you shouldn't be disappointed with the response you get. So
it's probably going to be way more in depth than you ever would have hoped for or asked for. We certainly had somebody ask some innocuous questions, and I'll write some really long response, and I'll never hear back, and then I'll think like maybe that was overkill, too much information,
too much Craig.
Yeah, too much Craig.
I had something to say, but I won't. Anyway,
don't.
Just like the podcast. Anyway,
that's fair play.
Thank you guys for listening. We hope to see you on June 11th or June 12th or maybe even June 13th. And we will hopefully be back with an episode next week.
Yep. Good luck if you're going to AC. I was really upset when it wasn't working. I was like, man, I was so excited to play NBA Jam and like NHL 96.
I was so good at NHL 96.
I don't remember if that was the one-timer all the time or if that was bring it behind the net and then...
Yeah, just go in front of the goalie's face.
Yeah, drag it across in front and just keep going and then shoot it and he couldn't stop it.
Yeah, what can you do against that? Nothing.
Yeah, same with in real life. You just can't stop that shot.